Hey up guys, back again, new episode of That What with myself, True Fiction. I've had a bit of time off, been like doing studio up and just been busy, but got plenty lined up for the next few weeks, so get your sends ready. And first up, I'm in today with MC and rapper. What am I? Oh, I've proper lost my train of thought then.
It's all right, bro. You're not only don't know what to call me these days.
Yeah, what are we doing, Maza? Or are we doing
I mean,
Mason?
everyone calls me Maz. Like, one's closest to me. People I see regular, they still call me Maz or Maza. But to anybody that's new listening or that's unfamiliar with me, it's Mason Fenrir these days.
So we're gonna roll with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't make it look like I don't know who I'm sat next to. I do.
No.
I was just like you say. I'm like I don't.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a funny one. I get it asked all the time because everybody that I do see these days that remembers the stuff that like me and the boys did from back in the day, they still call me Maz, and I've got no gripes with that. It's just like any artist, you evolve a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's only so long I can call myself Maza in a commercial sense before everyone goes, is it a 14-year-old chav? You know, there's that. Okay, well, let's bring Mason because that's my government first and foremost.
Yeah.
So I'm like, right, bring that forward. Fenrir came from Norse mythology. It came from the right hand of Loki, the god of the wolves.
Yeah, cool.
So, and the only reason I got that idea is being a wrestling fan. I saw Finn Balor come from Dublin, Ireland, Fergal Devitt. He chose Finn because that was the demon slayer and Balor was the demon king. And that's where he got the name from. I thought I really like that idea, so I thought I'd bring that into. And plus, it's an unusual name as well. You don't come across anyone with that surname. So
like, even when it comes to like naming an alias or a project or something, it is hard. But like, I love how you've just actually talked through that. It's like when people ask me where'd you get True Fiction, I'm like, I don't know. I think I called a mixtape it when I used to be called Jack Munch still, and then we're like, you know what? I'll use that as a new alias. And here we are.
Well, that's it. Everybody's got like some level of alias. I know a few artists these days that have got multiple aliases, but you don't know it's them because they do a good way of sort of covering over the fact that it's them, but just as another alias. So
some of that's cool as well. And like, it's like even some of these or like bands and DJs that are massive, and it's like, how's their alias still not got out yet?
It reminds me a little bit. I don't know if you've ever seen the clip before. Nardwuar when he's interviewing Slipknot.
I mean, I've seen plenty of Nardwuar, but I can't think of that clip off the top of my head.
He's interviewing Corey Taylor, and it's before any of them took the masks off.
Yeah.
And he's gabbering away. I think they're backstage at a show or something. They're about to go on, and he's talking about, number one, have you heard of Naughty by? And in the background, one of them says Nature. He went, number 3, you get it. And I with OPP, yeah, you know. He says me. It's like number 3's getting it. It's like he never talks. You're doing a really good job with it. Eventually starts leading into, and with Naughty by Nature, there's a cover band or a tribute band, and that very moment, number 3 walks away from the camera because he's clocked. He knows his identity before anybody came out. But that's the guy, isn't it?
Well, that's part of Nardwuar as well. It's like, how does he find out some of that stuff?
It's mad.
Same with the guy who does Hot Ones. I feel like he's a good questionnaire.
Great presenter. I forgot his name now, but I've seen so many of them he's done. He really asks some really good, insightful questions.
He's like, how does he get this info? He must dig so well, or just like ask close friends and family for some of the this content that he talks about.
Well, Nardwuar's actually about to do a collaboration with Nike.
Oh.
I don't know if any sneakerheads will be watching, but if this comes out, you'll probably be aware. But they've done the checkered pattern SBs in the same style as the hat and the jacket he wears, and there's little Easter eggs within the shoe based on like interviews he's done.
That's cool, and like obviously thought about them a lot when they've been putting them into production.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Apologies. It's going to be very much like this because anybody that's seen anything that I've done knows that I can talk the world of shit. So this very well could become a 2-parter. I'll apologise if I do end up holding you here hostage.
Fine. Like you say, I've not got what to do. We're all good. And you know I can waffle on as well. So
that's it, mate.
Let's go. Well, let's start off at the point then. Let me get my book. What we question.
Sure.
It's usually I just start off nice and easy. How are you doing? What you been on with?
A bit of this, a bit of that. I'm about 75% done with. I've a project I've been working on with Palisade since about 2022. It's been under wraps for a while.
I feel like I have heard some bits of this.
Yeah, there's been a couple of bits that I've sort of leaked out onto socials. Obviously, you've been in for studio sessions when we've got wrapped up and we're just sort of going over things that we've done. I think one of the days that I first met you, actually, Blues had just been in session, and I think I were just topping up a couple of other bits, and that's how we got introduced to
Well,
one
we were
another.
Just chatting away for about an hour then, weren't
That's
we?
it, mate. That's it. When anyone's had a beer or they've had a smoke or something, sometimes you just chew the fat, and it's how you get to know people,
Oh,
isn't
yeah,
it?
and it was already it's just like, I knew that we had crossover somewhere anyway, so it's like, oh, let's figure out where that is.
Oh, yeah, 100%. But I think when we started looking into it, obviously there's ties to PAL, and then when we were at, not last Friday, Friday before, at the Dozy event,
at Plot
22, and both we've got a connection there with Random.
Yeah.
That was like just completely out of nowhere. I'm like, it's got to be nearly 10 years since I've seen him.
It's been a few years since I'd seen him, so I was like, oh.
I didn't notice him with our beards come on.
I know, yeah, I think that's what we all said.
He looked baby facing all them. What were the series he did? Because he did 20 of them, and he's going to hate me that I've mentioned it, and I can't remember the name of it.
How About Raw? I remember that was one of them.
How About Raw was one of them, but it was like a random freestyle, I think it was called, something along that line, and there were like 20 parts to it. I had a really good catch up with him actually when we saw each other, because like you do when you haven't seen anyone for ages, you go at it.
Ain't smokers as well.
Ain't smokers. After everything's finished and everyone's kicking out, by the time I'd finished having a conversation, you'd have gone, Blues had gone, Paul had gone, you'd all come down to the studio. I'm like, cheers, lads.
Yeah.
Left to my own devices.
Yeah, I feel like we were just like, any stragglers, you're getting left behind.
Like, literally, but sometimes in heat of conversation, I found myself very much like disassociating everything.
I felt like we thought you were going to be like, oh, we'll meet you down there anyway.
It were going to be, but it got to like 3:30, and as you know, I don't drink anymore. I've been 3 years sober now, so an afters for me is right. I'm going to come down and have probably one or two zoots, and then I'm off because there's only so much bloody Pepsi and Dr. Pepper you can drink before you think I'm not going to sleep tonight, and my teeth are going to hate me in the morning as well. So.
No, it's easily done.
But yeah, we've done that. There's a music video that's ready for the title single, which is When It All Goes Up in Flames. The project itself, and this is the first time I'm actually speaking aloud about it, but originally it was supposed to be just a 10-track sort of EP/album. It's that fine line where you don't know where it sort of sits.
Is it an EP? Is it
an album? What do you call it? And then after we'd got finished recording, and originally the instrumentals that we'd used were the instrumentals we originally used were they were primarily YouTube beats. As anything, you use it for writing inspiration, and my plan was, as soon as I've recorded stuff, buy the licenses and get it put out. Unfortunately, I took 3 years to write this, and those licenses don't live forever until someone grabs them.
Yeah.
So by the time we got round to finishing recording, about 70% of the licenses had gone. And like they were completely gone. There was no option to purchase for this sort of purposes. They were all completely 100% exclusive licenses.
So you had to like rethink.
It was tough. It weren't even about rethinking. It started off as, look, I want to get a project done in 8 weeks, and that's what I had originally done with the last thing that I put out, or I should say the first thing I put out under this new alias, Mason Fenrir. I did Change, which, funnily enough, ties into one of my lovely little gifts. It's
nice.
One of the few physical copies.
Nice.
I always refer to it as a fancy drinks coaster.
We're getting messed up by the ring light, but I'm hoping. Yeah, there we go. Boom. So where can people listen to this?
It's on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes. It's all across the board.
I'll put that there for now. So people, is it gonna?
It might glare a little bit.
No,
I'm
I
not
think it
sure.
should be all right.
But the other one as well, because me and you are both long hair as well. I've started, for a bit of context, I started working for a company called Lids about a year ago, and worked for them for about 6 months.
Yeah, caps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they did custom wear. At that point, I was reaching out to some of the suppliers, and one of them reached back out, Hurley, who said, "Oh, we'll send you a bunch of blanks, test out what you want on design." So there were a very, very limited run of hats I ended up doing. Never sold any of them. They were only ever given out to people that were like closest to me, other musicians. And so I'd like to present.
Oh, hat as well. Oh, Bent Peak as well. That's an
Bent Peak,
absolute thing.
that's
And
it.
Hurley.
Trucker Fit as well.
Are these not an offshoot of Nike?
No, Hurley. I wouldn't be 100% sure. If I'm completely honest
proper
with
trucker
you.
cap as well.
Proper trucker. Good for summertime.
Yeah, I feel like I need a Pabs PBS right now. Yeah, say thank you for those.
No,
very much
appreciate
appreciated.
No, it's all good, man. I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to come in here and tell some stories that I'm able to tell over years, because it's been a very, very long time since I've been able to sit in any sort of setting to speak freely. Because a lot of people that know me from way back know that I was a bit of a mouthy fucker. I'll be honest with you.
That's the best way though.
Is it though? Because you make a lot of enemies. This is thing. And as far as like the Made in Chef collective was back in the day, there were me, Blues, ASK, C.N, G-Wiz. They were the original 5 members. Eventually, bit by bit, people fall by the wayside. People have kids, people go into work.
Did you not have anyone else taking the places?
We tried to avoid that, because the whole point is that it were a group of mates first and foremost, and I was one of the late additions, because aside from me and Dot, I said Dot, not Dot, we know Dot, but C Dot, our Chris, he's we went from Winkerbank. I were off Littledale Estate between Darnell and Manor, so basically caught in between every turf war there were between.
There, innit?
It's not the best, but spent first 15 years of my lifetime there. Dot, I keep saying Dot. Chris has lived here, there, and everywhere. He's settled down now, though. But we were the late additions into the collective, and it were ASK that had reached out to me in, I think it was 2011. Yeah, 2011 he reached out to me, and he said, it was one of those ones, I'd been putting out music for a couple of years, and he said, can you check my boy's freestyle out? And it were back when every Tom, Dick and Harry had a media channel. So
Northside Media, I remember that being one.
It weren't even to that degree. It were like Northside were great quality.
Northside were good. What's happened to that? Thinking about it,
I couldn't honestly tell you. There were a number of things that changed with them over the years. I never really worked too close with him, aside from when I believe it were Josh Hutchinson that were running it, because he initially ran a smaller media channel. He called it Double SM TV, and it were basically schoolyard raps. Yeah. Everybody that went to school together, if you started spitting bars, you got a freestyle on there. At that time, I'd probably been in it for a couple of years, so I went, yeah, I'll jump on, I do you one. But going back to ASK reaching out to me, I saw it, and it were literally an iPhone video of Blues doing a 64 bar over, I think it were, I want to say it were like Danny Weed Creeper.
Absolute banger.
A banger of a beat. It's still timeless to this day.
100%. Like, there's so many good remixes since
there
as
is,
well.
But I don't think you can mess with original too much.
You follow that The Metal Messiah?
I don't.
On Insta. I mean, it's good. Like, he does like the history of like grime, garage, like a lot of bass music. But he did like he'll get a song when it's like 20 years old, 15 years old, or whatever, and then he'll do slides of like different MCs spitting over it. He'll go like into the history of it. There's a few different pages like that now as well. So is that Solomon's Archive as well?
Yeah, Solomon's Archive rings a bell.
I think that's more baseline, that one.
Yeah, not my bag, admittedly. Like I've got a lot of love for the baseline scene, but it's never been sort of my bag of like an event I would go to or something that I would be part of.
Spit on.
It's one of those for me. Because of my background, and this is how we're going to really get into weeds here. Before I ever did music, and I don't think anybody's going to be surprised at this, because there is still a diss track up online where somebody made fun of myself for having done performing arts and dance. So I got into the sort of the amateur dramatic side and the actual performance aspect of it before I ever touched a microphone.
Yeah.
So when it came down to actually wanting to make music, I felt like I was already probably 2 or 3 steps ahead of anybody that was getting ready to jump on stage, because whilst I'd not had a microphone in my hand, I'd still be performing in front of audiences.
You understand having eyes on you and the stage presence you need.
Exactly. Knowing your directions as well. Like, for example, anybody that's ever done dramatics, they know stage left, stage right.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that when you're performing, it's always a 3-point that you look to. So you've got your centre, you've got your left, and you've got your right, and you always change where you're changing your focus. One, so that other people feel like you're getting connected with them when you're spitting, because I'm looking at you right there in middle, but then in a second, I'm changing my attention to you. You're more drawn in. But it's also for the fact of, different shots for photos and for
Exactly.
promotional
Yeah.
materials. So you're getting more out of that performance in having that little bit of direction and that little bit of I'm trying to find the right word, sort of premeditated planning to know that, right, in this 15, 20, 30 minute set, I've got this many songs, I've got this amount of time between them, I've got this sort of way to round it all off.
Yeah.
And that's how I've always planned it out. So when I go to an event like Dozy a couple of weeks ago, and a couple of people are like, you jumping on mic tonight, I'm like, it's not my bag. This ain't my domain. I'm going to show some respect for boys because it's theirs.
Because I have people like, why aren't you jumping on decks? It's like, I've not been booked. It's not my thing. It's boys, isn't
exactly.
it?
It's their opportunity. And to be fair to them, Rays, Palisade, Blues, everybody that were on that bill were absolutely smashed it. It was one of the better events I've been to.
I had a great night.
It was a great night. It was great. And I got to catch up with a bunch of people I hadn't seen for a while. One of my old mentors from when I first started getting into music were there. And it's probably been 6 or 7 years since I've seen him as well.
Yeah.
Because obviously we've all been through the same thing. We went through a period about a year and a half of COVID where we didn't see nobody. And then those that you have reconnected with, you almost got that closer connection to. And those that you never made that connection with again have kind of sort of like drifted away. Not through any intention, but more so that your life's changed, their life's changed. And so you're just on with your own thing. And then when you do come together again, there's no bad vibes there.
See, I find this with some people, like, where you don't see them and then they see Miffy when you've not seen them. It's like, I'm one of them where even if I've not seen you for 10 years, it'd be the same energy as last time I seen you.
That's what I mean. And it's to a degree, and it's nobody's fault, but it's out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
We've all got our lives going on. I had a reunion same night as when Dozy were on, and I saw some people I hadn't seen for 15 years. And he was mentioned on Blues, so I'll mention him here, Jizzle, who's popped up on as a mention on podcast a couple of times. He was with me, and he said, I don't know if I really want to be going here because these are people I haven't spoken to for a long time. Nobody's ever messaged me. I'm like, flip that on its head. Have you messaged any of them?
Very good perspective to take on it, yeah.
It is. So at the end of the day, if this is last time that you see any of these people until, and it's morbid to think of it, but if it's a funeral, at least you can come out of that place knowing I've listened to them, they've listened to me, we've connected again, we've had a good laugh, and now we're going to go our separate ways again, probably for another few years, maybe.
Yeah.
But there's been talk of a few from our older school classes getting together and stuff and doing reunions and things like that. So it may come, it may not.
It's just life as well. Everyone's got stuff on.
That's
and
it.
Sometimes you've got to make sacrifices and not see people to be able to fulfill your own goals, haven't you?
Absolutely. And I think in saying that, there's been a big change in sort of how I've perceived sort of my standpoint within music. Because when I was first coming in, it's like anybody, you're wanting to make a big name for yourself. You're wanting to use any sort of way to sort of propel yourself forward ahead of the rest of the pack.
Yeah, like cut corners.
Well, not necessarily cut corners, but there were an old saying, controversy creates cash.
Yeah, I mean, even now, like you see so much clickbait where it's just like either articles where it's not even on about what it says, or most of it's just like these annoying.
Is it an advert or is it an actual article?
Well, yeah, you don't know.
You don't know.
Blurs are getting lined in the digital world, definitely.
That's it. But that's sort of it's a very, very strange time for social media as well. But I think we're going way off a pace from where original question were.
Yeah,
so apologies.
I can fucking go off.
But once I watched that freestyle with Blues, it was like, cool. Can you drop me his Facebook so I can message him? Because before me and Blues ever actually met, we collabed on a song, but it was like ships in the night.
Oh, what? Where you weren't in studio at the same time?
No,
kind of thing?
So he were at college. He were at college in Sheffield. I'm a year below him technically in school, but we were both born '94. He were round corner from where I recorded with a producer. You might have heard of him, Simon, PSY Man.
I remember. I used to get them dubstep beats off him back in the day.
I was one of the first ones to hear him when he were working on him, because we used to spend hours in studio just like playing around with different sounds and stuff. He was just based off of Queen's Road at the time. So I sent him a message and I went, I'm going to send somebody over to you. I'll pay in advance for him. He's going to come round on his dinner break and lay a verse for me. And for anybody that's ever heard of the artist Loki, there was a song he did called Abomination around the time that President Obama was elected into office.
Right.
We did a remix of it, but what we've done is we've taken the last literal probably 10 seconds of the original song, because it's the only bit of instrumental there were, and just looped it over and over again to recreate
Well,
it.
it's very DIY way of doing it.
Or sometimes you've got to be that way, because for a lot of those iconic instrumentals, they never got an official release.
No.
So unless you're going to spit over a version where somebody's muted the vocals and you can tell that they're rapping underneath it, that were your only option. So
but these days, AI, you can split them, can't you?
I know, this is it. It just goes to show the advancements in music. Like I'd seen that Vocalier that's been advertised on Instagram and
Yeah,
stuff.
I think I've seen that pop up.
It's just a microphone that goes into your DAW. You sing the harmony and it puts it through in MIDI.
It's basically a Kanye West app.
Literally is a Kanye West app, but I don't think we're allowed to mention him too much.
No. not a hot topic right now. Yeah.
Well, do you know what?
Controversy.
Again, controversy creates cash, and in between the time, because we spoke about this briefly when we were at that event, you know, admittedly, the instrumental in itself is a great piece of music. The message behind that song is a different question.
Exactly.
But since then, he's re-released it and changed the words.
Oh, has it? I've not even clocked
So
that.
now it's no longer that one, it's now Hallelujah.
It's still just a cop-out, though.
It is. The question I've got to ask now is, the next time that he performs at a live set and does that song, which version is he going to do?
Well, not that, what's the crowd going to sing?
Music's always been about uniting people. This is the first time I've ever seen a song where it's caused quite clear division between people. And in that sort of setting, if you look at it, could be very, very problematic.
But again, it's Kanye doing what Kanye does best, making sure that
all eyes are on him.
Everyone's talking about him. That's still, yeah.
I half debated bringing Kanye mask in today just to take piss.
No, we'd have had that on photo. But anyway, let's see. What would you say? So, who were like your inspirations when you did first start ripping mic? Or have you got any? Or
inspirations.
Just anything like when you did start doing this, what were like motivating you?
I think the thing that were motivating me was that there were a group of lads that were from my area, from Littledale Estate, that had started making music. They were known as Expressive Youths Project, or EYP for short. Yeah. And Simon was the producer for him. He was the recording engineer, and he made a few of the beats for him. It was Nips, spelled N1PZ, and Politic, Politik.
Yeah, fucking both sick in their own regard as well.
Amazing MCs, and I feel really privileged to have sort of sat under that learning tree, because I learned more probably from them than I ever have anybody in this business. So when it were time for, like, they came into Park Academy and they were part of a Sheffield Futures project where they were taking kids that were otherwise naughty ones that were sat in SLT all day or sat in detention, and saying, look, if you're interested in music, come and sit in on a session with us. If you've got bars, come and drop a couple of bars. And what we want to do is want to get a group of people together and put together a song that were like anti-gun and knife crime. So I think, in all fairness, at the time, because there's about 3 or 4 years between sort of myself and K.Milk, AK, and I was
going to say, it sounds very similar to like their story as well. So obviously Milk said they started at youth club, and then that's how they've ended up doing it.
Yeah, they were at Wyburn Youth, whereas this was more like predominantly with the school, and so it were all advertising for Kayami Foundation that had set the school up a couple of years because it were technically private, but you didn't pay a tuition fee. Because it used to be Wolfioff. Yeah. That were it. And so when they came in, they were like, oh, great, good to see you. And like, well, we're doing this. Do you want to be involved in it? I'm like, sure. So I probably only had like 32 bars to my name at the time. But the inspirations for a lot of the stuff I were writing were, unfortunately, at the time, it were people like Kanye, Eminem. I'd started getting into like the UK scene, so I'd listen to Dizzy, I'd listen to Kano, I'd listen to Skepta, a lot of these guys that now are all classed as living legends, and
pioneers of the scene,
literally.
Yeah.
So off the back of them coming in and working with us there, that spiraled into me being introduced to Simon, and we did another song with him. And I don't think it ever got an official release, but it were basically like 15 different people on one tune, each having 32 bar. This tune was like 18 minutes long. It was ridiculous.
A festival lineup, yeah.
But everybody had the same message behind it. It were stop guns and knives. And at 14, 15, to have somebody that's in that position to say stuff like that and be more educated on it, it preaches a more positive message. It gives people like, look, I haven't got to rap about guns and gangs and drugs and this, that, and other. I can talk about actual topics that are meaningful to me. And if people get along with it, that's great. And if they don't, that's okay, because opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one, not all of them are pretty.
So most of them are full of shit.
And yeah, well, there's that. You said that, not me.
Yeah, I know. That's how I usually finish that quote. Brian Clough, mate.
God. So yeah, it was them that brought me in, and then slowly I got introduced to people like Gemini, or if you know Becky Rhodes, that's her little brother. 20Q.
20Q. Shout out
man,
Tom.
like 2-0.
Yeah. Oh,
Live on the Rhythm I Go.
He's jumped on radio sets enough time when we used to do Unit 3-1. So yeah, shout out Tom.
Tom was great, and I saw Tom not too long back, and he's doing really well for himself. Even though he's not really on music or anything these days, he's built a brilliant life for himself. As has Ash. The only ones I know that are still doing music are Politic and Gemini, and they're working together on some stuff now.
Sick.
So I'm sure that will be coming out in relative future.
Yeah.
Off back of that, it was just a case of, right, okay, I know that there's this collective, this collective, this collective, and this collective in Sheffield. For me to get any sort of way, I've got to either ingratiate myself with these groups, or I've got to set up my own.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, right, I'm going to step out, I'm going to do something by myself. And I were introduced to Nate Gordon, who we RTD at the time. He then said, right, I record all my stuff with Titch. So nice. That's how I got introduced to Titch in like 2011, 2012 time. And I did a whole mixtape with him. And if anybody has followed what I've done over the past, every single one of my projects has had a concept behind it. The very first one was one called Project Maza. And Maza is actually an acronym. It's Massive Attack of Zealous Anarchism, which at 14 I thought were cool. And now I'm
that
like,
comes across in the logo as well.
Exactly. Yeah. But also, if you look carefully at the logo, you can spell Mason after it.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking at it now.
Yeah, that's it. But if you can see. So we did that, and the whole idea was I were doing basically piss take voices, Pollard, Nips and Simon, as if they were almost like lab scientists working on this thing. And then eventually at the end of the album, I break out like some sort of beast or monster of some type, and I can't be contained anymore. That, about a year later, I stopped working with Titch because I think something had happened down at Unit he were working on, and he weren't taking on any bookings anymore, or I think he were travelling around with what's now become Fat World.
Yeah.
So I got in touch with Simon and I said, look, you're living closer to Sheffield now. Is there any chance I can come and record with you? He went, yeah, absolutely fine. So the next one I did, following on from Project Maza, was the Pyramid Scheme. Obviously, with the name Mason, there's a lot of connotations to that. Not necessarily.
And whatnot.
If I had a quid for every time, I probably would be one, honestly. It's the most common thing that anybody says to me when they hear my actual name. And within that, again, there were topics touching on the hidden side of the industry, the subliminal messaging left behind in things, and the skits on there, which, if you play them in reverse and listen carefully, there's stuff in the background.
But even that is mental. You put so much thought into these projects, obviously, and it's like, I swear, some people, especially not even like the replaying it backwards stuff, some people don't put that much fucking time into it. So that's big graft.
Music is art. That's how I've always seen it. And one quote, and eventually I am going to have it tattooed to me. And there's somebody that's going to be watching this or listening to this that knows exactly what I'm going to say now. But there's a purposeful reason why both these sides of my arms are completely blank.
Yeah.
That's because on this side, in nice text, I'd like artists paint pictures in canvas, musicians paint pictures on silence.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's quite deep.
That's something it's one that I've put it off and put it off and put it off, and I'm hoping by end of year I can have that completed when this project comes out.
Yeah,
so
that could be like, I guess, a reward for finishing it.
Literally. And so yeah, off back of Pyramid Scheme, I was starting to build a bit of name for myself. There were RTD that were reaching out that had done the youth channel as well. They were having people like Nitro, Creature. Ray's even made his first appearance on there before I even knew him. And so I got featured onto there. Around about the same time, there was a song called 10 Man Strong that came out.
Yeah.
And that was literally top 10 MCs in Chef. You really couldn't deny it. Or at least at the time, it looked like there was something of a divide because there were a lot of people from one camp on this tune, but not so many from the other one.
Yeah, politics.
There's always going to be politics in this thing, but I'm always a firm believer in, honesty is best policy. If you dislike me, I'd sooner you tell me than be fake to my face.
Yeah, no.
And at least then I know who I can put my time and effort into. So when they did 10 Man Strong, it got radio play, it got a lot of attention to it. So JG made a remix of it and he called it 10 Henge Kids. So it were all the under 18s that were involved.
Yeah.
The argument I had was I sold probably more mixtapes than any one of those people at that time had done, and it didn't get the call up. But there were others that did get a call up that in my mind, I thought, I know I'm better than them. And so as a bit of a, well, screw it, controversy creates cash, I went onto RTD Youth and I had about a 5-minute rant of saying, look, I know I'm one of the best youngers out here. I know that I'm better than this person, this person, and this person. This one in particular, and I singled him out, and we've mended fences ever since, but Nitro and myself had a bit of back and forth. I put a diss track out. He had a few things to say online, and that would be all and end all. But again,
no reply.
There weren't one that came out. If he ever did one, I don't know. But I put out I think it were 64 bars, and I said, call it double O quits. If you're that much of an MC, double what I've done now. I never heard anything on back of it, but we've worked together since. Like I've been into studio with Naya, we've laughed about it in years since.
That's
because
what you got to do, though,
you
innit?
were kids,
and that just sounds like there was a lot of just like fucking everyone trying to one up each other, like egos back then.
But also, you're hormonal teenagers,
yeah,
so you've got that like bravado of like I want to be this, I'm this, I'm that.
I am the top dog,
literally, and that's what a lot of my earlier stuff was. Off the back of that whole situation occurring, I ended up joining in with Made in Sheffield because, again, it were either I became part of a clique or set one up for myself. And I saw MIS as my option of, this is something that we can build. It's not something pre-established. It's not even about tweaking it, because the collective itself had its grounds to make its way. There were just probably one thing they were missing, and Blues mentioned it when he came in, but it's song structure.
Yeah, that is an important thing. Like, it's all good having your bars, but it's also knowing where to let a song breathe and then bring your bars back in again and stuff like that, innit?
And so that's what I became. I became something of like the construct, like where people were like, right, we're going to do this tune. Your verse is here, your verse is here, there's a hook. Your verse is here, your verse is here, there's a hook.
Yeah.
And whilst they're all writing their bars, I'm not only writing my own stuff, I'm writing the hook in between, whether it's me that's doing it or somebody else.
Even then, you've like probably if you got the hook, you'll have one of them in mind to do it. It's like your voice will suit these words better or whatever.
But if you come up with the hook first, there's an easier way for people then to write the bars, because they've got that main thing to reference to.
Yeah, like a point or some sort of like content that you can build it around, then a foundation.
Perfect example of it, K-Dot's Talk to Me Nice and his All-Star remix.
Yeah.
Every person mentions the words "talk to me nice" or "don't talk at all" or to something to that.
And even with that, how many people were on that? That was a fucking big lineup on a song,
massive lineup, exactly.
Yeah.
So we started building his own stuff there, and we at the same time I was in process of doing my third mixtape and also doing my first like official release, like my first thing on like iTunes, and Spotify weren't around at the time, but like that was the be all like, right, I've got to go digital because that's where it's going.
Yeah.
And the third one was called Undercover, and all that was I put either a Facebook post or a tweet out, and I said, send me your favourite songs and I will do a version of it.
That's cool. Yeah.
And like anything, you ask the internet, you're always going to get trolls.
Yeah, Barbie girl,
like or do I'm Blue Dabba Dee Dabba Die,
Justin Bieber,
literally. But some of them, I thought, do you know what? I'm going to make something of that because somebody said something about Rihanna.
Yeah, that's something that you can definitely work with.
Exactly.
She has got enough bangers.
She does. She really does. But I think it were Pour It Up.
Yeah. Yeah, that were a good tune. That was
a great tune. But I featured that as part of almost like a medley of trap songs because the song was called I Hate Trap. It was just the irony of it.
And that was, very much the trap era as well.
2013-ish, something around that time.
Legit.
But then there were also one on there, DNA by Little Mix.
Yeah.
When you actually listen to the instrumental, it's a grime beat. but because of the melodies of it and the way they sing over it, everyone considers it a pop song. So when I did my version of it, it came and nobody realised it was DNA until the hook kicked in.
Yeah, that's
And it
even
was
better.
like,
That though.
it's like it's. I always like to, I would say, leave like Easter eggs or crumples or Easter eggs or little hidden things in the songs I've done or the projects that I've done. Undercover came out. That were probably the most successful mixtape I had at that time because I did something like 900 copies of that on CD. And
Jeez,
yeah, and that were primarily Sheffield, but that were me travelling around basically everywhere now. And you'd laugh at them now because you'd call them chuggers or whatnot, but I'd be the guy in middle of your street.
I
Go,
remember
are you
what L
interested
Man
in?
on Fargate dashing out CDs and
Yeah,
stuff like
I like
that.
Young Block.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Again, another group of people that I spent probably 3-4 weeks around. I learned how they operated as a business because they've. I don't care what anybody's got to say, but that group that Block were part of at that time sold more copies of a mixtape, I'd say, in North England than any music collective I've ever known. Because the whole thing was, it wasn't about the money. It was about getting the music out to people.
Yeah.
So it was never about this CD's £3, this CD's a fiver, this CD's on a donation.
Well, I just remember they'd always come up like, "What music do you listen to?" And even if you'd say like metal, they'd be like, "Well, still, you might like this. Check this out." And it'd be like, "Don't matter who." Like, and it'd be even better if like you listen to rap, sound, you'll love this then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all marketing. And they would happily take 50p for one at CDs, knowing it probably cost them 60p to make.
But they're gonna get that promo.
They're going to get that promo out there. And every time they went back to those cities to sell CDs again or do the next project they'd done, they already had people that, I remember you from last time.
Yeah.
And that I love. I don't think you get enough of that now in music because of that change to digital.
Players anymore.
Like I said, fashionable drinks coaster more than anything.
What you're on about? It's going with collection here,
Oh,
which
yes.
obviously I've got loads of bits there. So yeah, it's gonna find a place there. It's gonna be part of the archive, obviously.
That's it, mate. And for me, that's what music's become now is leaving an archive of work behind me that I can be proud of. And if people enjoy it, it's great. If not, I've only really done it for me.
Best way. So what do you reckon is like, I don't know, the song, the track, the mix that you love the most? What do you have the most appreciation for?
Because of the story behind it, I'll say my personal is Warriors Musgrave.
Yeah.
That's because that was originally just an instrumental, and I pestered Simon for years. Please let me vocal this. Yeah. Please let me vocal this. It were always no. And eventually I thought, do you know what? Screw it. I'm going to write verses for it. And then when he hears what I've got for it, he's got two options. He'll say, I told you I'm not doing it, or that's sick, let's do it.
Right, yeah, you've got me.
I'm glad that it was a second. And so that one's really, really special to me because Simon, Politic and Nips all had an input on that song in a creative way. Simon as a vocalist and the primary engineer, Poller who came up with the original melody for the song, and Nips gave creative criticism once he heard the original draft of it to the final product.
Constructive criticism as well.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, you need some time. Like, some people can't take that, but it's necessary.
That's it. I've always prided myself on if anybody's ever gonna come and ask me, what did you think of my set? What did you think of this tune? I'm always going to be honest with you. Yeah. I'm not going to be an horrible bastard, but I'll say I weren't a big fan of this because of this.
I did it to someone like that night at Plot at Dozy. Like, one of the lads came up like, "What do you think?" I was like, "We're good, but this is what you need to change." And he was like, "Thank you. Like, I appreciate your honesty." And that's it, though, isn't it?
Yeah. And Ra said the same thing. When I first met him doing West Street Live. He showed me, like, he did his set. He came to me and he went, "What did you think of it?" He mentioned about that he wanted to work with like an acoustic artist and stuff like that. And I just sort of stopped him in his tracks and I went, "Why? Can you explain to me why you want to go down that route?" "Oh, because of this, this, and this." I'm like, "Okay, fair enough." What I would say to you is get a solid 30 minutes of material.
Yeah.
Get that you can take anywhere with you. No matter where you get booked, you know you've got a solid set list.
Yeah.
And then as you perfect that set list, you can add and change to it from there. If you try to do too much at once, you look like you don't know what you're doing at all.
Or you're just trying to throw too much at wall.
Literally.
Yeah.
So just try this, try it out for a few weeks. If that don't work, switch it up. And it's always about fine tuning what works for you. So when I've probably played West Street Live now 30, 40, 50 times of it years, because I'm quite fortunate in that I've got family that have also worked within industry. Matt Hume, who was one of the promoters there for Fourth City, prided himself on having mixed bills. So it weren't all just all rap or all rock. You'd have everything thrown in, so there were a bit of something for everyone. And I would always go to when they were a drop out, because I would only live 20 minutes away, and he knew I had my 30 minutes ready. I'd just bring it in on USB, I'd do it. There were some tunes in there that he loved, there were tunes in there that he didn't like, but he knew that I were always going to bring it every time, whether it's 250 people in there or I have literally played to empty rooms before, because it's part and parcel of what we do.
Exactly.
And I'm sure you've had nights where you've had probably only 2 or 3 people in. And
DJing, like, it's like, it's going to be a long one.
But in the same breath, you could probably have more fun with it because there's nobody there. So I used to make jokes of it. I'm like, thank you to the millions and millions that have turned out to it, and there's like 3 people in. We'd have jokes about like, oh, so what's your name? What's your name? What's your name? And then rather than saying thank you to the audience, I'd thank them individually, because you know what?
Then they feel that personal touch anyway.
Well, yeah, and then it means next time they're more likely to bring more people with them because they think they'll get another shout out.
Yeah, like this guy's actually like quite entertaining as well. Yeah,
that's it. And that's the thing, is that's where I struggle with like a set, because there's no room to breathe on a set. I can't take 2 minutes to have a laugh and a joke with you or explain what this next tune is.
I suppose it's more so if there's more of you, like when you do it as a collective as well, because you're all just vying for that time on mic.
Exactly. But even in that respect, when we did do like larger collective shows, it were timestamps. It were, right, this is your running order. This is who's on this. And we had nights not too far away from here, some practice rooms down here in Kelham, where it were, right, how many mics have we got on day? We've got 4. How many here is there? There's 10 of us.
Right, so we need to share this one.
It's literally, right, you and you're on mic 1. You were mic 2, 3, 4. And it were always, right, know who you're passing your mic to next. And also, for any MCs that do live sets, can I please just say, no matter how much you cup that microphone in over top like this, it sounds like shit. It really does. Because if you've got a voice that can travel, holding it like that, even though you look like a singer, it's going to come out so much clearer. That's free information.
It's just one of them amount of sets I've been in. It's just people shouting. It's like, I didn't come to listen to you shout. I was getting used to your rap.
Literally.
Yeah.
So when we would do stuff like that, it were like, if we ever caught any people that were doing it in practice, stop it. Go from top. Do it again.
That's good though, regimented that
literally.
Yeah.
And when we'd got that sort of rhythm to it, and like, right, we know what tune's coming up, boys, so make sure you've passed your mic over, or make sure you've got your mic ready, because we haven't got any time between. We've got solid 30 minutes, and once that's up, they're cutting us off, and whoever's coming on for the main event is coming on. We need to be out before. So there were, from being in the background, I've been in theatre and in like performing arts and stage work. I kind of felt somewhat of a director role in that respect, even though I might not have necessarily been as one of the main featured artists.
It's just because you've got an understanding of how stage presence works, and like therefore you've been able to be like, right now, let's actually like direct it in a way where it's not just like those lads on stage not having a clue what they're fucking doing.
Well, it's also the fact of, you guys all on stage all know each other's lyrics, which is great. The audience doesn't, and so when you're backing up a word, if there's 10 in you that are all shouting that last word, nobody's going to hear it. It gets muffled. It gets it gets mixed in with the rest of the sound, and it comes out crap. So I would always say to him, I'm like, right, pair up, boys, because whoever you're paired up with is your hype man when you're spitting, and vice versa. So you wouldn't have that issue, and it worked really, really well. It's unfortunate that the actual collective itself didn't pan out. But, such is life.
It can happen for a reason, doesn't it?
When you've got control over it, I suppose. When it's out of your control, sometimes it can be a bit bittersweet.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's just doing what you can do and then maintaining that.
That's it.
For long, I guess.
Control the controllables.
Yeah. Right, let me see where we're at. Oh, yeah. What would be like your favourite show that you've played over the years? Have you got a standout or a few?
There's a couple. when I first released Wolf Mode in 2013, I just turned 18, and I did as much research as I can, and somebody will probably fact check me against it, but I was the youngest solo MC to have an iTunes released in Sheffield, which I'm still proud of to this day. And I had my own evening, which I ran at South Seas when that was still a venue up in Broome Hill. Great venue.
Yeah, good nights.
I booked it was myself at Main. I booked the boys on before me, but I said to them, all tunes that I'm part of, I'm not doing because I'm coming on later.
Yeah.
So can you either somebody do my verse or just cut it out and move on? Ryan Young, who is a fantastic acoustic guitarist who did the theme for Tramlines in 2014. He actually his song was used on like radio for advertising Tramlines events, and a legend of the game, and probably somebody that I hope to work with another at one point or another, because we were very much ships in the night when we worked with Simon. KOG.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quaku.
These days. Yeah.
Quaku is such an amazing artist. He got the crowd lively. Nobody within like my collective had heard of him, but I'd heard some of the stuff that he'd done with Simon, like Revolution music. I'd heard some of the stuff that he'd begun with like the Zongo Brigade and things, and that were like, yeah, if we can get him on, that's great. I'm happy to pay him if he wants to be paid, because I know he's going to bring that energy. Yeah. And he were happy to do it for nothing, because it was just for the love of the music.
Well, that's it. People usually, when people are in love with the music, then they don't mind doing things.
I mean, that's not to say you can book him for free now, because he's worth every penny. Anybody?
Yeah, that's on fee for now.
That's it. You're not getting known. But yeah, so that was my three support acts, and then I came on for Main, and it were only probably 300 people, but it was my first.
Is that pretty good though? Still.
Yeah, it's decent. I mean, obviously everybody in and out for smoking area and things like that. And I did an hour-long set. It were like I'd only done probably 2 or 3 songs from the actual EP itself. The rest of it was just back catalogue. Yeah. It were literally chronicling everything I'd done up to that point, and then last few tunes were these are new ones.
Level up doing an hour as opposed to half an hour.
It's a fucking killer. I tell you, it's
breath and all that.
Well, it's not only that; it's also I find that I'm not just rapping a lot at the time, that I can somewhat hold a note. And so when you're doing like a really aggressive rhyme tune where you're spitting really quickly to then go into something with melody, your voice can go very hoarse very quickly. Yeah. And there were an old trick I learned from drama was, if ever you're struggling with vocals, it tastes like shit, but it really, really helps. Warm black currant juice.
Oh, that seems legit.
Because it lines your throat and lines your larynx, so it allows your vocals to come out clearer as opposed to being raspy against like the inflammation you get in your throat.
Like, some of these like old boys that are smoking all their life, and that's why the voice sounds that way. It's like sometimes that sounds sick. Well.
Oh yeah, I mean, Robbie Williams does not sound like Robbie Williams if he hadn't had 40 Bensons before he's gone on. Yeah, there's some people that it works for. At that time, being 18, I didn't want to sound like I was 35. Yeah, so I've got a constant bottles of water, blackcurrant juice. The other one I did, honey's really, really good. But that was more like if you like really like congested and stuff. The other big one I remember doing was Tramlines in, I want to say it was 2010. Back when it was still a free festival, and it was on Dev Green. We did Peace Gardens, and we were me, Paula, Nips, and 20 were on straight away after the Maccabees. Yeah. So it was a massive crowd there. There was easily 3,000-4,000 people just in Peace Gardens alone. So we got to go on straight away. The problem was Maccabees overran. So our set got shortened. So it were a 3-song set that got turned into a 2-song set, and my song got cut. I didn't hold any grudges there, because it was the biggest audience I'd performed in front of. I was only 15 at the time. Yeah. So it worked out to what it needed to be. Those are the 2 main ones. Change, the album launch, was a very personal, very intimate gig. Maybe 100 people at most. A lot of them like work friends, Cafe Totem.
Nice, I like that. When it turned called after? Rocking Chair.
Rocking Chair, yeah.
You were at that before or after? But I
It
know
was
you
one
mean
or
Old Lord
other.
Nelson.
Yeah, Old Lord Nelson.
Yeah,
That's the
and
one.
then it went through a couple of iterations, and now it's gone, which is a shame. But
It
yeah,
is.
Good venue.
It was a great little venue.
Unit 3 there when we got. I think it were. I have. You know what? I think I have. Wait. Is that one? Oh, fuck's sake. No, it's not that one. Don't matter. But basically, I think it was like DJ. DJ? No, Mr. Virgo, that
Nice.
one. Like Finn, who's gone on to do absolute bits now. I think J69 might have played as well.
It sounds like a bill at J69 and beyond.
Yeah.
Which I only had a chance to actually formally meet him up at Harley when you did Unit 3 up there.
What, last September?
Yeah, September, October at the time, because I think it was around about the same time that we first met.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Because it were you, Dan G, Palazzo, Cargo. I want to possibly it might have been DMK. I can't remember exactly. It was a long night, and then I've slept so much since then. I'll be straight. But it's that. I forgot where we were going with that, but yeah, Cafe Totem, that were a really intimate gig. There were, like I say, only about 100 people in, and I was happy with that. Downstairs, bottom bit. But when you've got 100 people in, it feels like 1,000 in that place.
Exactly.
So that were really nice, and that were probably the last time I did like a proper night for myself. I've done, odd like sets here and there, like places like West Street Live and stuff. But overall, I've kept myself out at sort of performing space because I've tried to focus on sort of the creative side of things and writing and producing with Pal. So
that's what I mean. When did you? I mean, I can't believe obviously these past across over years as well. Just like Unit 3 and maybe Sheffield back in there or like that.
I think I probably had a large part to do in that because I were a mouthy bastard. I were a lot of people wanted to work with everybody else in Made in Sheffield apart from me. And I don't blame him. Yeah. I don't blame him at all because I have said a lot of horrible things about people in the past. And I can't say I regret it because if I'd have not done those things, I wouldn't have been able to sort of cultivate the image I had then. And if I could go back and change him, I probably wouldn't.
Well, that's it. Everything happens for a reason, doesn't it?
I always argue that you never make a wrong decision. You make the best decision you can at the time.
Yeah.
So,
and then you deal with it in one way or another.
That's it, literally. Because past it's past. You can't change anything about it. You can change where you're going in future, though. And I think once this is out there and people have had an opportunity to say, he's not like I thought he was going to be. I think I'd like to think that sort of perception of me is going to change slightly because ironic, isn't it? Change.
Well, this is it though. It's a constant thing. Like even some of the things I pipe on about now, I wouldn't have expected 10, 15 years ago. And just I would have a thing of way of flipping a mentality. It's not just been like, why did this happen or why has this happened to me? You look at it like, what can I learn from this? Literally,
every day is a learning experience, and if I can come away from something having learned something that I didn't know beforehand, it's only going to benefit me going forward. The old trick with the microphone, that was Paula that taught me that. Yeah. As far as like where I would directing my attention when I'm on stage, that were Nips. So there's elements of what other people have taught me throughout the years in everything that I do, even in the most subtler things.
Yeah. And even that with the mic, I know like some metal vocalists that do put the mic because they've got to, because they're like, what they're doing.
But in that respect, it works. Yeah. But when you're going for clarity over volume, you don't want to cup that mic because the whole point of having that microphone and it's not a condenser mic, it's an omni mic, it's omnidirectional, so you could use it from any angle. What you can't do is cup all of that and just speak into one because then you get that tunnel effect. Straight down middle, exactly. But when you pull it away and you hold it far enough away that your voice can travel into it, it sounds clearer and you don't have to do it as loud. And therefore you're not breaking your vocals to get that song out there or to get that bar over the line. And you can definitely hear me over the top of this. Like, nah. It makes me... I pulled Race to one side while they were on, and I went, stop cupping your mic, bro, because it sounds like shit.
Well, we're getting on to a bit now.
Okay.
Getting on to the fucking, what is it? The set questions.
The set
stock
questions, the stock questions.
Yeah. I know. Maybe I should change them, but no, these are what people have been asking to ask. So,
Go on.
first one, obviously, if you could only listen to one album for the rest of your life, what would it be and why? This is always a tricky one.
It's a difficult one for me because the one I would have usually given has already been said. Because blues, I would say there's three main ones for me. So blues took my answer with Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. It's a great piece of music.
Production, vocals, like delivery.
Unbelievable piece of work. And not only that, I mean, if you look at the actual writing credits on All of the Lights and how many people are involved in that song, it's incredible that they were all able to do that at one time.
Yeah, that is mad.
Because you look at it, there's people credited for that song like Pharrell, Rihanna, John Legend, Kanye West, obviously. But there's all these other like background performers. People like Elton John have credited on that tune, and nobody realizes it. Second one, I think it's probably one that most formative album for me growing up is the Marshall Mathers LP. I think anybody that ever gets into rap, especially if you haven't heard that album, it's one of those you have to listen to it at least once. It's literally like chapter 1 or chapter 2, Marshall Mathers LP. Listen from start to finish. Don't skip a song, no matter how difficult it is to listen to Kim. When you actually listen to that song and the actual, because it's storytelling.
But this is what he was so good at, telling these stories. It's like even Stan, where he's telling it from a different perspective, and then going back to it, like he was just such, and the way we were wordsmith, where he was saying like, oh, you can't find anything to rhyme with oranges, like I can think alone.
Yeah, that's it. It's just all about pronunciation and how you elongate words, and again, that's a skill that I've tried to bring forward.
Last album last year.
Oh, the Death of Slim Shady.
Very good, yeah.
Again, concept album, going back to his roots. You know, like, well, there's a running theme throughout.
And you said about concept, I've always been a fan of them, like Streets, The Grand Old Country Free. That's one of my favourite
Plan B
albums as well. Plan B, yes.
Great concept album, and I don't think a lot of people realise it is.
What, the singer one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love the one before as well, the one that is really dark.
Yeah, I forgot the name of that one now.
Nothing actions and nothing means words.
That's something along that line, yeah.
That's not the sentence, like all them words.
They're in there, but they're just in some form or another. And then the third one, because it came out at a time when I wasn't really involved in music as much. I'd sort of distanced myself from basically everything to do with the scene. I'd stopped writing, I'd stopped producing anything. I was very much in a very dark place at the time, and it was one that kind of pulled me through. And as much as I've just said Eminem, it's Machine Gun Kelly with Hotel Diablo.
Wow, complete flip, the guy whose career he technically ruined.
Did he ruin it, or did he make him bigger?
I've seen that new song and video, and it's like...
It's not your cup of tea, but it's propelled. That whole thing with them was a massive publicity stunt for him, because now look at the stuff he's created since, none of it's rap based.
Yes, he just got ducked if you were like, I need to leave the scene.
As an MC, you can't go bar for bar with him. I don't think there's half a dozen people on this planet that could ever go bar for bar with him. There might be one or two, but MGK was always very much like, I listened to a lot of his stuff from very early on, like the Lace Up album, because he had one song, I think what was it called, Invincible, he had, that was featured very, very heavily at a time when I was starting to get back into pro wrestling.
Yeah.
So that was like the theme for The Rock versus John Cena when that happened for the very first time. So that's that tie there. But also he's popped up on the program a few times, like he's been powerbombed off stage by bloody Kevin Owens and stuff like that, or he's been hit with people's moves because he don't mind taking a couple of bumps because he's rock and roll to a degree. But Hotel Diablo always strikes me because that's the one that he brought out after that whole ordeal with Eminem. But there's definitely songs in there that touch a nerve. If anybody's ever heard the song Glass House, I think, I can't remember it, it's Naomi something or other. It hit me very much in my feels, and it still does to this day. I get a little teary thinking about it, because when that song came out, it were middle of COVID. I'd not seen any family or friends in months. I was very much on the low end of my mental health, like at my wits' end, and hearing that album and some of the songs that came from it, I was like, this is amazing. I feel like he understands the sort of pain I'm going through in my own head, and so even now I'll go back and I'll listen to that album and I don't skip a song on it. And there's very few albums I can do that way.
That's a sign that album fits in this category. Then it's like, yeah, if it's one way you're not doing no skips, then yeah, it's definitely a favourite, isn't it?
100%. The honourable mention as well goes to Loki, Soundtrack to the Struggle.
Yeah, that's still a banger.
That's
I've not had that one for ages. I'll have to re-listen to that.
well, he's done 2 and 3 now, and he was supposed to do something at Yellow Arch a couple of months ago, but he's rescheduled for September now. Yeah, so I'm definitely going to pop down, and I've got one of the original hard copies of it as well because he only did like a limited run of 100 or something. Yeah, so I'll bring it down and hopefully I can get it signed.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a fan at the end of the day. I think we all are once we see the people that we've grown up or we've aspired or we've listened to for all these years. You can't help but be a fan, no matter how professional you want to be.
Yeah, fans are my mates.
That's it.
Mad, but like, yeah, it's just like you still appreciate what they're doing.
100%, because you get where they're coming from because you're doing it yourself as well.
Yeah. Right, let's talk Sheffield then.
Go on.
Let's get into the Sheffield bit. So usually first thing at this point I'd be like, what's first things that comes to mind? If I would just say Sheffield.
Home.
Yeah, that is a good answer. We get that a lot.
Home, Steel City, Meadowhall, I'd say just on edge of Peak District. Someone says Sheffield. Steel. It's all prototypical stuff. Honestly, I don't think I could give you an answer that I don't think somebody else has given before. But for me, first thing I think of when Sheffield said it's home. It's where I've been all my life, and it's probably where I'm going to die. So it's one of them ones. Like I know half of these streets like back of my hand because I spent a lot of time just sort of roaming around on my ones.
Yeah,
if I got me, well, if it went from being with iPod on with my headphones wired in to then being on the phone with your AirPods in or your wireless headphones. I'm still doing the same thing I was doing 10 years ago. Is that I'm trying to get inspiration from around me whilst I'm on these walks and I'm just listening to beats.
The only thing that's changed is you've lost your wires.
What, up there or just like in general?
Have you noticed how that has changed in Sheffield over recent times, I guess?
Oh, yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ. I didn't realise we had to house as many students as we've got, supposedly, compared to amount of developments we've got going on.
Yeah.
It seems like every other week there's another tower block opening up for supposedly residential living. You tell me anyone that can afford to pay £1,000 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment in Sheffield, and I'll tell you, you're calling bullshit.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, there's been far too much development within a quick time within Sheffield, because it's almost unrecognisable to a degree because of all these, big apartment buildings or student accommodations getting thrown up. And I know that Sheffield, as a rule, has the highest retention rate of students in England. Yeah. More people stay in Sheffield than anywhere else in UK, which is great. The problem we have is that where you're supposed to house them when the housing's not affordable.
Yeah. Are they still going to just stay in these flats? Or...
Well, no, they can't, because next crop of students are going to have to move into them. So where are they going to live?
This is something that pisses me off in summer. It's like a ghost town when students.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. I know full well that there's probably 3 or 4 apartment buildings that are absolutely bone dry, like nobody in them. At one point in a former job, I worked as a security worker on nights for a student accommodation. And when COVID hit, I might as well have just been stealing money. Because
they all went home or what?
There were like 20 people left in a building that had over 1,000 people at one point. Because majority of populace we had were Chinese.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they were the ones that they felt that they were going to be persecuted by everyone because this virus had come over from China. So they were like, there were a massive amount of like xenophobia against them. And so to avoid all that, before sort of borders went up and all flights were grounded, everybody got themselves out of Dodge. Massive exodus. I had to go around and clear up a bunch of apartments that were basically just left as they were.
Just literally pack the stuff and went.
Not even pack the stuff. There were a lot of cases where, like, There was a whole thing of where if they had stuff in their apartment that they'd left behind, we offered to use a shipping company to send it back to China for them.
Yeah.
They wouldn't pay anything for it. They just needed to tell us what they wanted to keep and what they were prepared to throw away. A lot of those people just went, I'm not bothered about any of it. It was an incredible amount of waste, unfortunately, because a lot of the families that send their children over from China to the UK to study abroad are extremely wealthy, and because of that, we were clearing out designer handbags, designer garments. I got a pair of bloody Travis Scott trainers. I don't know if they were real or fake. The backward swoosh ones when they first came out. There were loads of stuff that were just basically, and because all the charity shops weren't accepting donations, it were going to go in a landfill or somebody could take it home.
Surely you had enough space to just store it for a bit anyway.
You'd think there was but when you've got over 1,000 rooms and 700 people have basically said, yeah, you can get rid of it. It were a case of, right, it's a free for all, guys. Like whatever you want, it's only going to go in a bin anyway. So take it with you, mate. I got like 3 or 4 desk chairs. I got a gaming laptop. It were all in Chinese, and I had to use Google Translate to change language settings on it. But that served me well for 3 or 4 years before it eventually conked out. It was literally, it's just literally like you said, more money than sense, and it was just senseless waste more than anything. And anything that we were able to like either make money on or donate or anything, I think the company ended up deciding on a charity or something that they were going to give like any proceeds to. I don't know, to be honest, because after 6 months of having nobody there, it was just like, whilst it's easy money, it's not fulfilling as a role.
Yeah.
And there's only so many times I can watch South Park at night from 10 o'clock in night to 10 o'clock in morning before I go, yeah, it's probably time to find something else.
You always get bored, and I'd rather be busy than bored.
Yeah, absolutely. If I can do, the thing is, if I can do something and I can enjoy it doing it, I don't really feel like I'm working.
That's the thing, isn't it? They say if you find something you like and you get to do it for work, then you're never going to work a day in your life.
Literally. But it's it's a very strange sight. It always hurts me going over at Tinsley Viaduct and not seeing Salt and Pepper Pots anymore. And I know they've been gone nearly 20 years now. Yeah, you actually? Yeah. Oh, is that the one that you were on about that we're going to...
Yeah, I think that's the one.
Yeah. Mate, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Where's
interesting content
where we're going?
I don't know, it's obviously the sleeves are done, so probably somewhere on here.
I think you should have one on either back of your calf. So that when you stand together, they're together. There you go.
Give me an idea.
Mate, I ended up getting like a bunch of tattoos back in 2016, and then I just stopped all of a sudden because I felt if I carry on like this, I am going to be covered head to toe. So I had to like limit myself.
You just get carried away, don't you?
But there's always like little references to things in like the stuff I've done. So some of them just look like scribbles admittedly, but that one there on my wrist is 7 Hills of Sheffield with SFD in the middle. There's like my music note, there's my wolf, because wolves have always been like a big part of like the branding of my music, but I'd consider them my favourite animal. Yes, wolfies. But it's and for me it's always been about, like you put something into your skin permanently, it's one of those ones. If it doesn't have any significant meaning to you, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, we do, mate. Space Boy. Nice. Now, the reason I got that's literally the first tattoo I ever got, and the reason being is CM Punk has the same tattoo. I watched the documentary that he did back in like 2012, 2013 or something, and they were describing about growing up as a kid. He said, when I was growing up, I always felt like a bit of an outcast. I was sort of too cool to be a nerd, but I weren't cool enough to be like one of the jock kids at school or be one of the popular kids. So I never felt like I really fit in. I felt like I was from outer space. Yeah. But also there's a second meaning behind it because, again, growing up with a few of my mates, we watched like rap DVDs, like the Up in Smoke tour on stuff on that were on I had that on my PSP. And I would put it on lock mode so I could put it in my pocket and listen to it on way around. I need to find one out. I need to find one out and do a mod on it. Either that or a Vita. But there's a scene in the Eminem show, because he did the anger management tour, where he's got a puppet that's like an astronaut, and he's like, "You can't catch me, I'm Space Boy," and then he shoots it down out at the sky, and I'm like, okay, well, there's a second reason. So
2 reasons.
that's it.
So yeah, got to have them. Yeah, I've got no reasons. Yeah, I've got fucking Heisenberg.
Nice.
Not really a reason for that.
I've got
so,
me
yeah.
PlayStation binary tattoo.
There you go. It's all about fucking just getting some silly ones
It's
as well.
it's expression of self without saying a word.
Exactly. Plus, yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine anything away either.
That's it.
So let's go on to venues then.
Venues.
We're not tangent again.
Go on.
So usually it's two. You can have two answers for this. So how do I actually say? I've not done a podcast for a while. But yeah, if you could bring back one classic Sheffield venue, where would it be? And it can be somewhere that you went that you missed, and then somewhere you never got the chance to experience.
So two of them.
Yeah.
So I'd say the one that I miss significantly was Embrace.
Embrace. Yeah, I never went Embrace.
I had a few good nights in Embrace, and the thing was, is at the time that I first started going clubbing, Embrace was on sort of its last legs.
Yeah.
So I probably only got like a year and a half, maybe 2 years before it like closed down. I know it reopened again under a new name for about 6 months, and then that it didn't work at all. And now it's been converted into what's going to be an indoor shopping centre.
Oh, is that what that bit is?
Yeah.
Obviously it's got the box at the bottom, and then the hotel's obviously a big part.
No, the whole round that side where just in front, just next to Barclays Bank, that whole side bit, the planning development is supposedly going to be like an indoor shopping centre akin to a bit like Leeds Trinity.
I know that Barclays is moving a bit further down next to a hotel.
Yeah.
Why is it?
Because there's a co-op bank on that
Radisson.
side. Radisson on that side, across from Peace Gardens.
Around here, so I'm guessing that'll probably be entrance to this.
Possibly.
Or one of at least.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like any of them. You know, you probably have that one there, and then where John Lewis building is, there'll be another entrance on that side. I know, but
do you remember back in the day? Test your age, yeah. Do you remember when Barclays was Gap?
I don't.
So yeah,
no,
like back in '90s, I reckon.
The oldest memory I've got from town centre, I remember McDonald's being down on the moor where H&M is now, where before they tore it down and rebuilt.
Yeah, so they used to get trouble a lot. I think that's why they shut that. They had upstairs bit as well.
It did, yeah. But also about 3 or 4 doors down, and you might recall this, Southern Player.
Yeah, with the graffiti.
The graffiti art. You got graffiti stuff downstairs, but you also had American clothing upstairs as well. So you get Echo Chronic t-shirts and stuff. You had all your rap t-shirts, but you had stuff like Echo Unlimited. You had the G Unit stuff. You had the Shady Wear.
Such a throwback.
I know.
I missed that. So that's completely gone.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even just on more. I remember when you'd buy your 3 for a tenner, you chipped games off of someone out of a suitcase.
Literally, and then when Bobby cut, it was like snap it over like Del Boy on run.
Which is now probably like the light.
yeah, that would pan out. Yeah. But that's the one that I would bring back that I went to. One that I never got to go to, and I've heard good and bad of it. Club Wow.
Wow, where was that? Now?
Centertainment.
Yeah, I never. How you say it? I remember
it were
everything, but never went. Was that after Brannigan's?
I think it was after Brannigan's, before it all got converted into what is now Monkey Business.
Yeah, upstairs it was like a club, and now they've just been like, now, I'd rep, let's get a kids' play area in.
Kids' play area, mini golf course, laser quest.
Some of these kids, quite rueful. I bet they get just as much.
Oh yeah. I mean, all COD lobby, idiots will be going into there thinking that they're playing that or something. Yeah. I made the argument though when Toys R Us closed up at Centertainment before they built it into what is now like the Ninja Warrior. Yeah. I argued that why wouldn't you put a club there now, or why wouldn't you have some type of venue there? Literally. And the other thing is that even if it's just a music venue, you've got a massive fucking car park there for people to park up. Not only that, but tour buses for artists to park up as well.
It's that kind of car park where they can control it and charge people.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's mad. I missed a trick there.
Literally, but I've had loads of thoughts like this, like as Sheffield's developed over years, like what could be done with spaces. Or if I had money to do something, I'd do this with it. Going back to like Lids, that were only around for less than a year. If it were up to me, and I had, say somebody said, "Here, here's 25 grand, set something up. That's the one I was running. I was part of the setup and installation of that one, and I did a lot of the advertising for them as well.
I went last night, I saw it closed. I walked past, I was like, oh,
closed in January. It closed up, so it went from April to January. Didn't even get a year.
I'm surprised that unit's not gone yet with the turnover in Meadowhall.
The problem that you've got at the moment in Meadowhall is that there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things are changing there.
What used to be Sports Direct in that back corner, and that's JD now. Obviously, they've not got the upstairs. So
no, but that's only a temporary unit for JD, because that whole side where the steel statues used to be in the middle at the Meadowhall, that whole side, including the lift, is going to be the biggest JD in the north of England. It's going to be the second biggest in the contract.
They've just opened that one in Manchester. That's the biggest in the country now.
This is going to be in line with it. Apparently, it's going to be bigger than Trafford Centres. I don't get
it. Like, there's JDs everywhere, and they just sell all the same stuff, and that's why everyone's charged
but
these days.
Think about all the companies that JD's also got under its group.
I know, you've got like Blacks,
Size,
used to have Arc back in
Go Outdoors. All of those, if you think about it, they're doing almost the same that Sports Direct did, because Sports Direct isn't called Sports Direct anymore. Fraser's, exactly. They've done a whole rebrand, but
they've turned it into a department store essentially.
It is. It's just a new Debenhams.
Yeah.
So you've got your game section, you've got your sports section for Sports Direct. They've got a cycle section, USC for fancy stuff if you're that way. I think they've even got a share in flannels as well. That's why you see a lot of like the stuff from flannels in there when it gets dropped into outlets. So yeah, there's a lot of developing things in Meds at the minute, and at the moment it's one of those where like there's so many moving parts and so many things are changing that it looks like after it's all boarded up, but in 6 months' time it'll all be rejuvenated. Always in time for Christmas, just in for biggest rush at year, of course.
Just when everyone doesn't. Right, anyway, before we go off on a tangent there,
apologies.
Let me see where we're at. Right, so usually at this point, where would you go? I mean, you don't drink these days, so if you were to go and enjoy some time out, is there any way you do? I mean, it doesn't have to be to go for a drink.
These days, I'll be honest with you, like if I'm to go anywhere, it's usually with missus and it's usually with dogs. Yeah. We've got 2 Shiba Inus, and wherever we go, we want to make sure that they're dog friendly. So we'll visit places like the Heague in town centre for like a little bite to eat or something. I think it's a Rundle Street. As you come up from bus station and you're about to turn left up into town centre, so on that left hand side, there's a news agents. There used to be a takeaway, like a kebab shop there as well. HYGGE, the Heague. Yeah. So I think they're starting to franchise it a little bit. But we've visited there, and they're lovely there. They love seeing dogs. We go to Notty House. Good old pie and chips. That's sometimes like a Sunday trip or something like that. I'm just trying to think anywhere else. I can't name one place because John didn't name it, and again, I'm not going to throw them out under the bus if they do get a load of trade off back of it. So there's one I'll keep to myself there. But more time than not, admittedly, I'm a creature of comfort. I like to spend a lot of time at home, more so than anything. Home cooking. I get to spend time with my missus. I get to play games. She's a gamer as well, so we got on like an house on fire from day one. It's where we had his first date. It's where we went back on his first year anniversary. We went to Extra Life Gaming Lounge just up from Ponds Forge. They're a good little place, and that's a couple that have been gaming for like 30 years together that run it. So it's like it's wholesome
as well.
Yeah. So it's really, really nice to go and visit them. I don't think we've been back since we got engaged. But we've definitely got to take a trip there at some point. But overall, like drinking venues and stuff just aren't my bag. I really liked Plot 22 though, like when I went home, because that was my first time in there other week, and it is for what it is. It's just a nice, comfy venue. You don't get dickheads coming in. It's just everybody's on a vibe. Yeah, everyone's chilling. Everyone's just looking for a good laugh and a good time. Nobody's getting aggy. Nobody's getting stupidly out of the face that they're causing scenes and stuff. Just like a good collective of people that are just having a good laugh. That's all I ask for from anywhere I go.
Perfect then. Bang on answer. And if I were to say, have you got any like independent you want to shout out? That can be shops, artists, creators of anything, just
Yeah,
all like that.
so for shout outs, obviously shout out to Blues, shout outs to the Made in Chef group, shout out to the Unit 3 boys, man like Palazay, man like Dan G, man like Ransom, man like Cargo, man like True Fiction. For independence, I've got so much love for them, for the years that they supported me when I was first getting into music. The Alternative Store at Division Street. Was Fuse, yeah. Is where actually there's a couple of Fidscam freestyles from myself and Blues from back in the day that are filmed in the original Fuse ones.
Old school videos, it's like, oh, I heard about it. I think it was Kay that I heard about it. Like, I remember when you did the tune with that Calm Down with Coco when you filmed it in Saki's.
Yeah. It's just
like
just daft things like that. Yeah. Also, as obviously I mentioned, we've got a couple of dogs and we've set up a page for them. So that's Eddie and Eva Fenrir. So if you like wholesome dog content, give them a follow. It's probably either me or my missus, posting some. It's what I think I showed it you before we came on, and I'll show it camera if it'll pick it up. Yeah. But again, going back to what we're talking about, like with AI and things like that, what you can create these days is incredible. My prompt was make a picture of my dogs as if they're hosting a podcast, and there we are.
It's so good, though.
And yeah, more so than anything, just big up the scene in general. Big up man like Dot, man like Coco as well. They've crossed that threshold now. I feel like they've broke that barrier where that ceiling we were all sort of kept under, where we can't touch the mainstream, we can't work with these bigger artists. Coco's just done a tune with Dizzy Rascal. Yeah. As far as UK artists is concerned, I don't think it gets much bigger. It's a tune and a half, and it's not usually my cup of tea as well.
Mate, he's tried something different and it's working.
He's absolutely smashed it, man. And Coates always shows some love. Like he's very humble when you get a chance to speak to him. Like on multiple occasions when I've seen him, he's always shown love. And always when anybody's ever said, "Yo, who's this guy you're chatting to?" He's bigged me up as if like I'm next big thing, and I'm like. I try to stay humble these days, and it's just nice to know that people think so highly of me in that respect, even those that I look up to and that I want to hopefully follow in footsteps of eventually, providing that what I've got coming is taking off. Just on a slight side note to that, I kind of lost my trail of thought talking about it a little bit earlier, but the project I've done with Pal, like I said, was a 10-track EP, has now developed into effectively a double album. So we've done 20 tunes. There's When It All Goes Up in Flames, which is all your more upbeat stuff, your party tunes, your rave tunes and things like that. And it's got like a punchy tone to it. On the flip side of that, there's When Hell Froze Over.
This is like
your deeper songs, your more chilled, your more melodic stuff. There's a couple of ballads in there, like where I've really tested my vocal range. So I'll apologise in advance if it doesn't work. But to me, I think it sounds great. And again, I've made this all for me as opposed to anybody else. So if you do like what's coming out, thank you ever so much. And if you don't, let me know what it is you don't like.Maybe I can work on it.
Yeah.
Or 2014 Maz would have said that. What's happening? Are we going to do a quick fire round this time then? Because I know that you usually.
Yeah, you know what? Fuck it. We're literally. I think we would be at that point. We'll fight now. We'll do that in a second.
Okay. Oh, don't let me jump ahead of your schedule.
We'll do food spots, then we'll do
Go for it.
So, okay. Top 3 takeaways. Start off with.
Ibra's got a shout out, and I'm going to give him a shout out again. Freddy's.
Yeah, I had it for a while though. I feel like sometimes delivery time is long.
Where are you ordering from though? London Road or Firth Park?
London Road usually.
I'm closer to Firth Park side, so that one's actually pretty rapid. The more you know. Yeah. And third one. Do you know what? I went to Unit on Sunday for the first time.
Yeah, really good.
Really, really good. Surprisingly fast as well.
Which one did you go to?
Sensitainment one. We literally no sooner had we ordered it had been 2 minutes and it was there.
I've been to Steelers once, went there, and I think for that reason alone, they've got to get the turnover.
Oh
quick,
yeah,
haven't they?
100%.
I've been to the only one I've not tried now is the one in Cambridge Street Collective, but I've been to the OG one that's like behind Moore Street substation,
Yeah.
and then I've been to that entertainment was, which was that last one.
Yeah, those are good food spots. As I say, as I do a lot of home cooking these days, so I'm well, I say I'm doing. Our last does a lot as well, but we do a lot of stuff from home just because one, it's cheaper, two, it's generally tastier, and it's fresh hot as opposed to being lukewarm when by the time it gets there after being sitting in a car for half an hour.
As opposed to the takeaways, then have you got like a spot, like a dining out spot, like say it is date night, is there somewhere where you'd go and be like, right, this is the fancy spot, or
It'll
like,
be,
you know, like special occasion birthdays,
it'll be a bit of a cop out, but I mean, Miller and Carter's always a shout.
Yeah.
Just trying to think where else. Because of food allergies on my missus's family side, they tend to like to go Wagamama's quite often. The only problem I have with it is that you could have 5 plates and still not be full, and you've just spent 60 quid.
That's when I get like sushi and things like that usually.
Not my cup of tea. I've had the ramen and stuff, and you know, munching on edamame and things like that. But it's nice, but I wouldn't personally choose it as my spot to go. Me, I'm generally happy if I just get like a big piece of meat, pause on my plate, and then I can have that, some chips, a few veg on side. I'm easy so long as I can get that. I'm very, very easy to keep happy when it comes to food.
You got chippy of choice?
Wheatley's.
Where's that one?
That, and I'm not 100% sure if it's still known as Wheatley's because God rest his soul, Mr. Wheatley passed away a few years ago, but they were based on just between Sky Edge and City Road. So as you come up top of Granville Road, you take your right as if you're heading up to Manor Top. The next left at the church there's one right on the corner. Now, they would only ever open probably 3 days a week for about 3 hours a piece. But at one point, I lived on the adjoining road. So when I were on my way back home, I'd know whether I were having a chippy or not, because I'd have to walk past it. And if it were closed, I'm cooking. If it's open, I'm walking in. I'm having a scallop butty and gravy on it.
What's the last one in there? Sarnie shop. You got like a sarnie shop that you go to, or
I don't know if they're still open because it's been a long time since I've been in town centre. I always used to really like Urban Deli.
Urban Deli, where's that
now? That was across from Wigan Pen on.
You know what?
Is it Queen Street or Bank Street?
I think it might be like Toilette or something.
It might be. I've not seen it open for a good while, but that.
I've walked past this week and been like, oh, yeah, that must be good.
That was a really, really good one that I liked as a sarnie shop. Winkerbank Deli, probably because it's close to home. You know, it's walking distance.
That's what I mean. Got to find out where it's local.
Oh, going back to sort of takeaway spots, there's one that I've just remembered actually. G Chicken.
Oh, what on? Just off West Street.
Just off West Street.
Yeah,
our lass introduced me to that on one of the last nights that I properly went out on. I weren't drinking at that point, but it were very much like there was a brief period of about 6 months when I first started dating my missus to where the friend group that we were all involved in kind of like dissolved a little bit because people were like going off to have babies. Some couples had split up. Some people were getting together with new people that they used to be with somebody else in group. So it were like it's a bit messy. And one of the last times that we were all able to go out like as a group of couples, she showed it to me and it changed everything I knew about chicken.
It's like I don't understand obviously because there's no sauce. It's all dust, but it's not. Dry.
It's not. No, it's really, really good, and the fact that you've got so many options as far as what you can chuck on for seasoning is really nice.
I've got the same shit every time now. I've got to that point already.
I'm firmly just those little chicken bites, almost like popcorn chicken with the chips and a can of drink. It's an easy one. That's the only thing that kills me. Is it's a tenner.
I feel like most meals are at least a tenner these days.
If you know how to finesse system, there's ways and means of getting stuff on discounts or free potentially. I always tell this to people that I deal with in my current work at the moment, but I'll ask you, how many email addresses do you have?
Like 4 or 5.
That's fair. I've probably got same. A friend of mine's got 365.
What do they just keep using for
He set his birthday
every day?
every single day. So then he signs up for the mailing lists with every single email he's got. I don't know if he does it manually or if he uses a bot, but he signs up for stuff like Krispy Kremes and all these like food places. So every day he gets a message of, here's your free donut for your birthday. Here's this discount you get on your meal today because it's your birthday. If you've got the time and effort, you can do it.
I mean, that's surely a fucking tip for YouTube right there.
The other one is, I'm guessing that the emails you've got primarily Gmail accounts.
Yeah, I've still got my old Hotmail from back in the day.
But do you have specifically a Gmail account?
Yeah.
You do? So you've got infinite email addresses.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. I've got an email address that is dedicated specifically for spam, so I've got no problem with letting it out there. It's masonspam420@gmail.com. Now the thing is if I before I put that @ symbol, I put a plus, and I can put any word I want after that, and it still goes to my inbox. So what I do is whenever I sign up for something with, say, a company or a firm, or if it's a marketing agency, or if it's a giveaway company, I write the name of the company after the plus. Because then when I get an email from XYZ place that I've never had anything to do with, I check what email they're messaging me on.
So
because you can track, I can track where my data's been sold. The other way, and again, this is a money saving tip for anybody that does do them, you've got Netflix, haven't you? Not anymore.
Oh shit.
But you don't want it because you have to pay for it, right?
No, I don't want it because it's mainly dog shit what's on it.
I'm kind of roped into having to pay for Netflix as a wrestling fan now because it's all on there now.
Yeah.
But I haven't paid for Netflix for years.
I mean, again,
using the
free trials on that, don't they?
But you do a free trial, you try to put the same email again with a free trial, doesn't let you because it recognizes. Exactly.
Oh,
I'm on something like plus 36 now because after your 30-day free trial, I don't get to keep any of my watch lists.
yeah.
But because I know what I watch, it's easy to find anyway.
I've already watched that, so I don't need to watch it.
So I've not spent a penny on Netflix for close to 2 to 3 years.
That Martin Lewis guy. It's all about Mason Fenrir, I'm telling you.
Mason Fenrir money saving tips.
That's what I mean. Like, you need a podcast just doing that.
Mate, don't. If I can sit and waffle and get paid to do it, I'd do it. But it's one of them that I think people get sick of hearing me from one point or another. That's why I haven't popped up anywhere for 10 years. You know?
Obviously, chat there. I mean, I'm saying that's why I just go off on tangents.
That's it, mate.
Distracted.
But I think that's, for me, I can only attest to myself, and I haven't had any official diagnosis of it, but I'm fairly certain that I fall somewhere on the spectrum, or
me anyway.
or have some level of ADHD to a degree. So when I do get an opportunity to talk about something, or if it's something I'm passionate about, I won't stop until somebody literally says, "All right, chill the fuck out."
Yeah, I feel like I'm definitely in the same regard with that. It is what it is. Everyone's on spectrum these days, I swear.
Well, I mean, they are, but in that respect, then nobody can ever make that excuse of, "Oh, I'm this way because of this." Well, we're all this way because of this.
Everyone's weird in their own way.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is that I think as a society we do too much these days to overanalyze ourselves.
There's too much judgment as well.
But why are you passing judgment on somebody, or why do you care about what somebody else's judgment of you is, when 90% of people that you walk past each day you'll never see again in your life?
Exactly. I've had to say this to a few people recently. Doc was one of them, in fact, that he was like, "Why the fuck didn't you tell me that ages ago?" But it's just I've been reading a lot of like stoic quotes and stuff like that.
I'm guessing Aldous Huxley popped up in your reading library.
A lot of like Marcus Aurelius and
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
like that. But like one of the best ones recently is in fact two I'm going to drop. So comparison is the thief of joy, and then the biggest weight you can shed is the opinion of others.
I really like that.
Yeah.
That's a really good one, actually.
Exactly. As soon as you stop being fussed about what other people think, you're free.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. It's a prison you create within your own head that nobody else knows is there. So to you, on outside looking in, you just look like you're you're overly critical of yourself. Believe in the thing that you do, and you've got no issue doing it. I think you've got to have that self belief before you can force somebody else to believe in you.
exactly.
In the same way that anybody that's ever been single for an extended period will tell you you've got to learn to love yourself before you can love somebody else.
Thing, yeah.
And I thought that was an absolute load of horse shit for a long time.
Is it?
Well, I think it depends on your frame of mind. I think if you're actively seeking to find a relationship with somebody, it can go one or two ways. You can either put your all into it, and I'm very much I think I'm more of an old school lover in the sense of when I'm speaking to somebody, I'm only speaking to you.
Yeah,
I'm not. Well, yeah, literally all in. Um, it's for me about if I'm showing you the attention, it's because I'm wanting to speak to you. I'm only interested in you, and that's how me and now my fiance came across each other. It were daft as it sounds. We didn't do Tinder. It were Facebook dating, and that's I don't know if it's still there now, but we matched up on that, and I asked her, and it was literally just I asked questions, and she were happy to answer, and she answered back with some questions of her own, and just having that back and forth. The issue I find with, and I were having this conversation with somebody I work with the other day, that there's too many people I think in this younger generation are I want to see what's out there before I settle on something.
There's billions of people out there.
There's literally
so, yeah.
billions of people. So, but it was something daft. He said something like, "Oh yeah, so we've been talking for a bit, but we went on holiday together." I'm like, "You did? You should miss this then?"
Yeah.
No, we didn't put a label on it. I'm like,
if you don't put a label on it in your head, doesn't mean that other people.
on outside looking in, you're with this girl. This is your girlfriend. And it's like, no, she only became my girlfriend a couple of days ago. I'm like, yeah, but how long have you been talking? Oh, like 6 months. I'm like, so you've been in a relationship for 6 months then. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's not overcomplicate things. That is what it is. I won't go on holiday with somebody that I've just met off Tinder. You know what I mean? It's you go on holiday with somebody that you've got a connection with, that you're actively wanting to spend time with, getting to know and make some memories with. That's what it's all about. Because when
just going for the sake of it, just like, oh yeah, we just had a right bad time and just argued all the time. Like, well,
that's it. Well, you just walk away from the situation at that point. There's so many people now that are very almost blasé when it comes to relationships because they think to themselves, it's fine because I'll jump back on Tinder in the morning and I'll find somebody else I can shag. It's become almost very, very shallow to try and date in the modern age, which is why I'm very thankful in that I found like my forever. That's a funny story in itself. How we came to being engaged. I don't know.
I told this. I remember that. I feel like you were telling Dan that night.
Yeah.
We were at Powell's. When we first started chatting, I was just like, "That's a very good story." What? I mean, what time is it? You say you've got till.
Oh mate, I've got as much time as necessary, and I know this is going to be a long one, but I'll try and keep it short and sweet. And also another shout out I do want to give is to Tom Campbell of Cultaholic and BBC Radio Newcastle, because if it wasn't for him, it wouldn't have been possible at all. As I mentioned, I'm a big wrestling fan. I always have been, and in 2023 there was a show at Wembley Stadium from a company called All Elite Wrestling. They're like the alternative to WWE these days. They're on ITV. And they were holding a big show at Wembley. It were going to be the biggest live attendance for a wrestling event. I think they got the. I think it was ticket turnstiles. I think it said like 84,000 people in Wembley. It were ridiculous, and it were packed. There weren't a seat you could see. And I've watched that, and it were almost 20 years since I'd gone to my first wrestling event with my dad, and he came with me. Our last couldn't come with us. She'd had some work commitments. But I said to him, I'm like, if there's one thing I want to do is I want to go to this because it's a piece of history. So he went, yeah, go on, we'll go to it. And we had a great laugh in it. It was a great show. And just as main event's finishing up, big thing on screen, All In returns 2024, August bank holiday weekend. So I looked over to him and I went, would you be up for it again? He went, no, bring tea next time. And that's when cogs started turning. I'm like, yeah, I should bring her. so that were August. We get to March 2024, and it's our lass's birthday, and it's the first time I'm seeing her parents for a while. And I'm thinking to myself, this is probably the only opportunity I'm going to get to try and get the blessing. Yeah. Problem is that we're out at Wagamama's, so I don't get much of an opportunity to get them on their own. There's nowhere I can really talk to them privately. So her dad stands up and he goes to Boggs, and I'm thinking, this is the only chance I'm going to get him on his own. So I walks in there, I'm like, John, I'm going to apologise because I have to have this conversation while both his cocks are out. I'm obviously going to Wembley with Tia in August, and I thought I'd just let you know that I'm planning to ask her to marry me. So if it's all right with you and Donna, I'd like your blessing. He said, I've got absolutely no problem with this, and thank you for doing the traditional thing. So from there, it's like, right, okay, I know where I'm doing it. How am I going to do it? It's the question. Initially, what I did was I reached out to a bunch of the wrestlers on Twitter, and I just said, look, I know this is probably going to fall into your spam filter or your junk inbox, but on the off chance you do see this, please can somebody just put me in touch with like whoever your public relations team is, or your HR, or whoever your marketing team is, and just say, look, this is what I'd like to do. And it was just going to be like what they do at NBA games, oh, can you please turn your attention to the screen? Yeah. Will you marry me? Never heard anything back from anybody, but the one person that did get back in touch with me was Tom Campbell. Now, Cultaholic in itself is like a wrestling news channel, so they keep up to date with all like the behind the scenes and contracts and negotiations and any backstage fallout, fan interactions, like whatever. Yeah, very much so. They've got their own podcast as well. They get all the ex like WWE stars on their podcast and things like that. So they're very, very big channel, almost 1 million viewers on them now, subscribers, I should say. He reached back out to me and he says, I'd asked him, could you give me a contact for AEW's HR? Because I know that obviously they get asked to go to like the press conferences and stuff after the events. And he went, we've not heard anything from them this time around. I don't think they're going to be running one because the year prior, there was a whole hullabaloo around CM Punk, ironically, getting into a fight in Wembley backstage with one of the other wrestlers that inevitably meant him leaving the company and going back to WWE at tail end of 2023. So they said, we're just not doing these press conferences in UK anymore because it's just going to cause trouble. He went, what we're doing, however, because he's part of the creative team for a promotion called North Wrestling based out of Newcastle, and they were coming down to London to do a smaller show over the weekend, and they were working with a couple of other small promotions. I think they were Attack Pro Wrestling and Rise as well. I might be wrong, but they were having like 3 shows in the same venue for all across the promotions, and North was in the middle of the day. He says, I'm going to put 2 tickets on door for you. And when you come in, halfway through the show, I'm going to ask you and your missus to get into the ring, and you can ask her there and then.
A lot more leveled up to what you were expecting.
God, yeah, 100%. So it were like, right, how do I finesse this now? And because she's going to have to go and watch one wrestling show this weekend. How do I convince her that we're going to go and watch a second one? We aren't having to spend money. I told her that we'd won a Facebook competition for tickets. And so I said, but because we've won this competition, they might want us to sign some releases so that they can film us and feature us on the social media and things like that.
They're making it like non-suspicious.
That's it. So so I'm messaging back and forth for him, and he's like, can you do me a favour? Can you just take a selfie of you and your missus so I know who I'm looking out for in audience? You couldn't miss me because I was wearing a bright yellow coat anyway. But we get into the venue, he spots me, he like gives me a nod, we are our last looking, and then halfway through second match, he texts me and says, you're up next. So I take my coat off, I puts that all to one side, and he comes out and he says, we've got a lot of people here at North. How many of you is it your first time at North Wrestling? Way. He went, by the way, we love making friends at North, but there's 2 friends in particular I'd like to speak to. Where's Mason Sargent and my missus's name? So she puts her hand up. He's like, come on down. And I love her to death. She's watched wrestling. She still doesn't know how to get into a ring respectfully. So she struggled. They helped her in. And he starts talking to us. He goes, so where are you guys from? Said, beautiful city of Sheffield. We got booed. Yeah, but it's Cockneys, isn't it? So I just leaned into it. I grabbed Mike back off him. I went, "You're just jealous because cost of living's cheaper." That got a good reaction, and even a couple of lads in back that are from like the north of England. I think a couple were from like Leeds and Bradford. Started a Yorkshire chant, which were nice. He then asks her, so what do you think to your first North wrestling event? And she goes, "This is actually my first wrestling event ever." And so that got a big round of applause. I'm walking around ring trying to get everybody to hype up a little bit. He says, well, there's 3 things you need to remember in the world of wrestling. Card is subject to change. You never know what's going to happen, but it's always full of surprises. Saying that, Mason, this is for you. And he hands me a microphone. I went, thank you. How are we all doing tonight? And this video's out on Twitter now as well. And I just said to her, we just had a conversation. It rang me and her. I just pretended everyone else weren't there. I just went, where were we earlier today, darling? She went, oh, we went to Camden Market. She went, what did we get while you're there? She went, oh, you got your pendant for your chain and you got your wolf ring. I went, it's funny that, isn't it? I've bought a ring this morning. We're stood in a ring now. Don't these things usually come in 3s? And fans have already started sussing what's going to happen. So it's like, oh. I went, can you just do me a favour and hold this for a second? I just need to ask you something. So passes it. She's still oblivious to that point until I actually open box and ask her. And the shot of us it's really, really picturesque because it's from the perspective of like, this is where the camera is, the ring is here, and then the stage is behind us. So she gets we get the picture, everyone's like, and she pulls it and she goes, yes. I've not actually asked her, bearing in mind, but the sentiment's there, everyone knows what's going on. I always joke with people because after the fact, people it went over Twitter, and all like wrestling fans that were in London at the time saw it happen, and then we got collared by people the next day when we were at Wembley, like, you guys got engaged yesterday, congratulations. Yeah. So it was great. And then the question I all got asked is like, it's great that you did it, but what would you have done if you said no?
Yeah.
I'm like, should have copped for an RKO, wouldn't you?
Exactly,
you got to save face, haven't you? But no, once it had all happened, for rest of the event, she didn't even watch wrestling. She was too infatuated with ring on her finger.
Lovely, such a good story.
It's great.
You've got to tell that one if you're happy to.
Yeah, I'm always happy to. The thing that I always laugh about is that she tells everyone that she got proposed to twice. Because there was the in-ring proposal, and then once we got back to his hotel before we went out for the evening, it was just me and her. We'd just finished getting ready, and I went, right, there's no one here now, and you can hear me. So I took her hand again, and I officially asked her, and then she started bursting into tears. So it was great.
A moment you're never going to forget.
That's it.
It's on Twitter.
Yeah, it's there that it'll live forever. It's on Fight TV as well.
You're gonna have to send the link. I'm gonna have to post it.
Oh yeah, 100%, mate, 100%. I'll get you everything. But if there's one thing that I'd like to offer as something as a little bit of an exclusive for you, I'm going to forward over a sneak peek of the next video that's coming out for me. Nice, yes. So at the end of this, however long this episode is,
this might be the longest one so far.
I'll apologise now. I told you I can waffle and I can talk.
To be fair, I have a waffle. I reckon this is going to be at least a 2 hour though, maybe.
Yeah, well, hopefully I can keep. You've been able to tune in for this long, or if you have sectioned it off, thank you for sticking with us, everybody.
Yeah, all right. Maza's got some interesting stories. That's why I had to get him in, and also just like obviously need to find out what's coming.
Well, yeah, like you said, when it all goes up in flames, you'll get that preview coming up literally after this. And yeah, that should hopefully be finished before the end of the year. And if we manage to finish off when Hell Throws Over, maybe that comes out too. Maybe that gets pushed back a little bit.
Bring them out together, do you?
As an A side and a B side, I'd like to do them close.
Yeah, it makes sense. And it's just consistency then as well, isn't it?
Well, I've always been very much quality over quantity. So if ever I put something out, it might be 5-6 years between my projects, but it's because I would argue, probably more time and effort into making a complete body of work over just putting a tune out. It's all right, mate.
100% appreciate that as well. I understand that as well, because it's like, yeah, I get it. Let's get a fucking tune and get it out and out. But if you're just putting out mediocre stuff, then what's the point?
That's it. the best songs that stand the test of time are the ones that have always had the most effort put into them, and I would argue that if I could do this for another 15 years, I want to be able to, in 15 years, look back on this project that I'm working on and go, I'm still happy with it now, and I'd put it out now if I could.
Yeah.
So
true to yourself.
That's it.
Then,
That's absolutely it, mate.
Yeah.
Any more?
Right. Usually I ask, when's your United footy fan?
I am for my sins. I'm a United fan because of my dad. I don't follow football overly, but it's one of them. If anyone asks, I am a blade. My uncle Charlie played for Wednesday. Charlie Williamson.
Yeah, name rings a bell.
Played with Mel Sterling.
Yeah, he was 80s kind of time.
Yeah,
70s, 80s.
He had his debut in Boxing Day Massacre.
Come through then.
Yeah, it's a weird one. So yeah, I've got something of a spot for them just because of our Chaz. But I think he's over at Chesterfield now. I think he's part of coaching staff over there.
He's doing well, Chesterfield as well. Seems like what you've got going working.
I won't know. Like I say, I don't really follow it.
Looking from the outside, it looks like a well-run club.
Yeah.
Turn out Wednesday.
Well, that I do know. I think of reading something earlier that one of MPs for Sheffield has turned around and said he needs to sell up because all he's doing is destroying that club. And I feel for you guys because it's a tough one because you've had no like infrastructure put in place. There's been no improvement works on Hillsborough for.
There's nothing we can do about it.
Literally nothing. Yeah. And whilst United's had another takeover now that Prince whatever his name is gone, and this I think it's an American consortium or something or other.
One of Russo brothers involved.
Yeah, I read something about that. Yeah, it was supposed to that, but I think they've only followed off back of that because of the success that Reynolds and McElhenney have had over at Wrexham. And now both of us are gonna have to deal with him this season.
Championship now.
but that just means we're going to get a rights fee when they play us on when it comes to Welcome to Wrexham documentary.
Yeah, true.
So maybe.
What state when he's going to be in by that point?
Well, look at it as an opportunity to advertise club for sale. Well, you could just say to him, "Look, Ryan, you've got Wrexham. Why don't you have Blake by Wednesday?"
Innit? I don't know about that. I always said.
Well, Will Ferrell, but
Will said I'm surprised Drake. Obviously, he's got the OVO, the Owls near enough to fucking say that.
That's your dream, innit, though? But
yeah, not really. I just saw what he did with Raptors, and obviously
I didn't realise he had shares in Raptors.
Yeah, they want NBA after he bought shares in, so it's interesting.
I've not followed all that much of the football side of things, but I know as much as that Will Ferrell and Red Bull bought into Leeds.
Yeah. A lot more Yanks buying into English clubs now. I don't think
well, if anyone's got money to spare at minute, it appears to be them with their economy, or the billionaires that are coming from sort of this era of Trump being in charge. Because look at that whole situation with the tariffs and things that he put in place for a few days. The economy absolutely tanked. Those that bought in at that bottom now, and when it's gone back up, as he's done almost like a reversal on it, they've turned over in billions of pounds in a day. And it's like, right, well, I'm not surprised that there's all these Americans that have got money to burn in the pocket, but 90% of it's BlackRock anyway. Let's be honest.
Yeah, we'll go off on a tangent here. So,
unless they might have something to do with Spotify, so it's thank you, BlackRock overlords.
Don't cancel us. Don't just make us disappear at night. Anyway, on that note,
on that bombshell.
Yeah. So, what you got coming up then? I guess that's what we'll go at.
Yeah, when it all goes up in flames, when hell throws over, I'm planning out a wrestling themed video in the next couple of months that I'm hoping to collaborate with Pursuit Pro Wrestling, who's here in Sheffield. Nice. They're just off City Road with their training facility. So we're trying to work out the details of getting that sorted out. And yeah, aside from that, it's mainly just I'm keeping myself to myself until that's all ready. If you want to keep up to date with anything related to me, you're probably going to see dogs more than you're going to see me.
So go on, where would people find you on the socials?
It's Mason Fenrir for everything. That's FENRIR. And that's Eddie and Eva Fenrir. Eddie is in EDDIE.
Yeah, not Ed and Ed. Yeah, that would be the right Eddie then.
No, that's double DY.
Where were they? I used to love that program.
because there was Edie, E-double-D, or what they call double D, and Eddie, E-D-D-Y.
This is me going off on a tangent
Mate,
again.
listen, we're at the same generation where we remember them cartoons, and when somebody says something, that comes to mind. He's actually named after Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, that makes sense as well.
Well,
I love that.
He's Eduardo Guerrero Fenrir.
Yes, that's a great name as well.
She's Eva Ripley Fenrir after Rhea Ripley, because that's our lass's favourite. So, but yeah, they're out there on Instagram. We managed to get like just shy of 600 followers in under 2 months, just organically.
I feel like my old housemate. Instagram's got more followers than like all three of us that used to live together.
But do you know what? As daft as it sounds, yeah, because of the breed that they are, they get we don't get much traction during the daytime here. It's overnight because it's Japan that picks up on them.
I was gonna say you need to start commenting as if it's them talking.
Oh, it is. It's all done as them. You know, it's all voiced by them. We've got captions for them whenever they're talking and stuff. And yeah, it's all very wholesome, very cutesy content. The reason that we set it up in the first place was because I knew I eventually needed to get on board with the whole social media side of the music stuff, because like Milk said, you can't just be a musician now. You've got to be a jack of all trades, no pun intended. But you've got to do everything, and to that degree you've got to say, well, okay, if I can get into the habit of posting 3 times a day on a dog page, I can get into the habit of posting 3 times a day on my own page. Not only that, my missus wanted to get into social media, but she's not overly confident about speaking herself. Yeah. So I've said, well, use this as an avenue to go down that route, and when you feel more confident, you can apply what you've learned to your own thing. Yeah. No pressure.
So you're a confident speaker, surely you can give us some tips as well.
You can give people tips, but you can lead a horse to water, you can't force it to drink.
Truth bombs.
Mate, it's not even truth bombs, it's just all quotes. And
I feel like it's been a very good quote heavy episode.
It is, so I hope you get some good clips out of this.
Yeah, we need to make some fucking inspirational
I think instead of doing that, I think you just need to do a quote counter on a clip.
It's nice fun. We'll just scroll through them.
Yeah, that's it.
Sound, set world apart. Let's leave it at that then.
Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you ever so much for having me.
It's been a very good job.
Yeah, I'm glad to have been here, mate. And if you want a part 2, I've got more stories I can tell.
I'll have to see if I split this in 2 parts.
You might need to. We might.
If not, then like you got to go up with a wrestling thing or something like
that. 100%, mate. When they got something coming closer to town, I'll definitely give you a shout out, because at the end of the day, even if you're not into it, you can't really say to them when they fit in front of you, it's fake.
I'll get involved a bit and getting them out to a broader Sheffield audience.
If you'd like a cameo, how'd you fancy being a referee?
Oh, what, in video? Go on then,
yeah.
I'll do that.
I'll get you a black and white shirt, and you just have to learn how to count to 3 on a mat.
I might struggle, but I think
Listen, if you can get 140 tempos on point, you can count to 3, you're all right.
Good. So, let's do this.
Right.
Then. Let's leave it at that.
Thank you, everybody.
Shout out all listeners, as always. Don't worry, I've got plenty coming. Not going to be like once a month or something. We've got some picks ready. So, yeah, just stay locked on. Don't forget, follow, all of that. And we'll see you in a bit. Bye.
Love you, bye.